On today's episode, I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome Caroline Ross. She's a commercial photographer whose journey spans from Northern Ontario, the Caribbean, and now Vancouver, BC. Her career is a testament to the power of her adaptability and mastering new markets, from local referrals to international exposure. In this episode, Caroline shares invaluable insights into transitioning from weddings to commercial work, building visibility through strategic publishing, and the importance of networking to grow a business. Now an educator at Linga College, Caroline opens up about her approach to minimalist editorial photography and her passion for helping photographers push creative boundaries. It's no surprise she's a speaker at ARC this coming November. And tune into this episode to get to know Caroline, hear the lessons that she's learned along the way, and get a sneak peek to her upcoming presentation at ARC, Navigating the World of Commercial Photography. Welcome to the ARC Creative Podcast. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm excited to speak with you today. I understand you're a commercial photographer now. We're really excited to have you speak at the ARC conference that's happening in Vancouver this November. But I wanted to kind of kick off and learn a bit about your story and your journey, because I understand you grew up in Ontario, you lived in Saint Martin in the Caribbean for a few years, and then you're now in Vancouver, BC. How has those three destinations shaped your photography career?
It's really taught me a lot about marketing. So the first city I lived in was my hometown in Northern Ontario. It's a really small city called Garson, just outside of Sudbury. And when I first started there, I had friends and family that really helped with marketing my first year. And they were a huge aspect of my marketing in terms of referral marketing. When I moved to the Caribbean, I was marketing to an international audience, most of whom didn't live on the island. And then when I moved to Vancouver, it was an oversaturated market, which I had to break into as an experienced photographer at a higher price point, but with no notoriety in Vancouver. So all these three different locations have taught me so much about marketing and how much time I want to spend marketing too.
Yeah, I bet. What's one thing that you would say has been true about your marketing in all three locations that maybe you've kept up with and you still do that somebody could apply to their business right now?
I think getting published really helped. I was on a site, which I don't know if they still have it anymore, but I think it was Too Bright Light, which is like an aggregator for a bunch of different magazines and different online publishers to go to, and you upload your weddings and then you just apply to different magazines to be published. So that I think really helped. A lot of clients enjoyed seeing their work in print, and they shared it and all that fun stuff on social media and stuff. So it really helped. They would do the marketing for me.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
And how has your style changed as a photographer? Because I believe you started with weddings and then over time you've transitioned more into the commercial world. And I believe you still shoot weddings. Could you share a little bit about the evolution of you as a photographer?
Yeah, so I actually started in commercial photography. I worked for the city as a graphic designer and creative director. So I would shoot for their website. I worked at a police station. So I would do headshots for the police officers and the chief of police and the deputy, as well as different areas around their website. So they needed kids sections because they had a kids website. So I'd go and shoot a bunch of kids, summer students for the police department, and we would put them on the website. And I follow the police officers around on their day and just shoot them in action with the dogs, which was really fun. And yeah, so I kind of started in commercial photography. And then at the same time, I had friends and family who saw my work and wanted me to shoot their weddings and families.
Oh, amazing. Can you bring us back to that first wedding that you ever shot? And what was that like? What was your style like then? And how did your style evolve over the years?
I would say that my style is probably minimal, mature, and editorial would be three words to describe that. And I think that it's stayed the same over the 15 years I've been shooting. My first wedding was my cousin's, and it was just so nice because she was older than me and I always looked up to her, and it was just really special to have her hire me for her day, even though I had no experience, and she just had so much faith in me and just trusted in everything I did that day. And talking about the different marketing in different areas, that was most of my family and friends were my clients my first few weddings. So it just really helped me to grow with a really positive environment. And support environment.
Totally. And then what would you say the style is now, and how have your most recent weddings been?
Yeah, I really enjoy shooting photojournalism for most of the day. However, it's more of a directed photojournalism, as I'm sure a lot of wedding photographers do, just ensuring that situations that are important happen in areas that have really beautiful light and just ensuring that I'm there to capture it. So just shooting all day. I often used to shoot between 8 to 10,000 photos per wedding as a single shooter, not on burst mode. I would just shoot all the time, just capture everything. So yeah, that hasn't changed, and just really keeping that editorial look and keeping things natural and organic, but in beautiful locations, and as well as having some really quick posed photos.
Wow. Okay, so you shot weddings over all of those years, and you started with commercial photography. Now, could you give us a bit of an insight into where you are now with commercial photography? And I understand you're also an educator. Could you bring us into a bit of a update as to what your work looks like now and where you're at?
Yeah, so currently I work full-time as an educator. I teach at Linga College, and I would probably say it started about 2018, 2017 that I was really interested in diversifying what I did and getting out of weddings. And so I just knew that I didn't enjoy weddings as much anymore, and I really wanted to diversify my income as well and try and have different streams. And so I wanted to get more into something else. I didn't know what yet, but just something different other than weddings. And that's when I started to shoot a bit more commercial photography. So I've always done a little bit, like some fashion stuff and just worked with local brands. But I wanted to do a bit more and as well start applying for teaching. So to get into teaching, it took me quite a few years after applying and going for interviews to finally land my first job, which was at a different college than where I work now. And then eventually I applied multiple times to the college I'm at now and finally got hired.
Oh, great.
It's one of those loops where in order to teach, you need experience teaching, but you can't get that experience until you start to teach. So it's kind of difficult to get into teaching.
Yeah. And how did you make that transition as an educator? How did you get that experience?
I like to think that it's because I was an atheist, because I found a job application. I think it was December 23rd. I applied for a job and the opening was for January 2nd or 3rd. And so over the course of the holidays, I didn't celebrate. I went for job interviews and prepared my resume and got the job. So there wasn't too many other people, I think, that applied.
And that short space of time over Christmas. Fair play. Yeah, that's fair. Awesome. And so right now you're shooting commercial work and you're educating. Could you share with us a bit around how you've maintained being a commercial photographer and really taking the leap into that world whilst you were shooting weddings? So I guess 2017, 2018 was kind of the time where you did more commercial work. So how did you make that transition? Because I know there's a lot of photographers out there who shoot weddings and they may have been doing it for 5 years, maybe less, but they're also interested in creating new streams of income. They want to explore other avenues. They love the fashion editorial side of weddings, but they want to do that for bigger companies, bigger brands, and enter that commercial world. What's one of the ways in which you started to pursue that, and how did you navigate that time?
Networking was probably the thing that really helped me in Vancouver with my commercial photography. Just going to networking events I found on Meetup and on Facebook, and just like once a week, like 4 times a month, just going to multiple different events and networking events. I didn't go to this one. However, if I was to start over in commercial photography, I would recommend a Business Networking International, so a BNI group. Have you heard of them? Or are you?
Yes, I have. Yeah. I'm not.
Yeah. So
I've heard of them.
You're not part of. In each BNI group, there's only one industry professional. So there'd only be one wedding photographer or one commercial photographer, one headshot photographer, if that. And so it's all about network referrals and marketing. So this group has your business card, and every time they hear of someone who needs a photographer, they hand out your business card for you, and you do the same for them.
Oh, brilliant. And is that something that you would suggest right now then as well to anybody who wants to get into it, attend those events, get involved in a network like BNI, and that's the best way to kind of kick off in a
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be a BNI, but maybe just some group that meets frequently, because you really have to keep going back over and over again and make those connections. You can't just show up once to an event and hope that someone will refer you, because they don't know you personally. And yeah, you have to make those personal connections. Toastmasters is a good one, I think, too, that maybe you can talk about as well.
Yeah, definitely. I've been going to Toastmasters now for about 3 months-ish and really enjoy it. It's a great community and a great way to network as well, and just make friends too. You know, in Vancouver, it's a small community out here, but I've really enjoyed that. And haven't said really referral wise, it's been something that I've necessarily gone to pursue, but everyone there knows I'm a wedding photographer, which is very helpful. And whether that leads to something or not is to be determined. I'll find out over the months, but it's definitely great to be connected and being in a network. And one of the reasons why I created the art conference was to create a community in Vancouver, to bring like-minded photographers together, have wedding photographers be connected and supported in a community, but then also have educationally, the top workshop educators and speakers there. And I'm excited to have photographers who aren't just wedding photographers there, but are familiar with the wedding industry, but have a commercial photographer like yourself be there. So thank you so much for being a part of ARC in November. We're just under 2 months away now, and by the time this episode goes live, probably significantly less than that. Your presentation is called Navigating the World of Commercial Photography. So could you share a little bit with us about your presentation, what people can expect this November?
Yeah. So when I first moved to commercial photography, I realized there was a big difference in marketing as well as customers, like clients. So I think it's really important to break it into two different areas, consumer photography and commercial photography, and just to talk about different marketing in each of them, as well as the client that you're working with. Consumer photography is when you're dealing with photos for personal use, and then commercial photography is non-personal use. Sometimes it gets a little bit mixed up, but usually commercial photography, there's a commercial use for the photos. They're being used to sell a person or a product or promote something. And so marketing to those two different areas are really different, and working on set with those clients are so different as well. A lot of stuff also carries over. So when you're working with wedding photography, it's really important their clients trust you. So when they're dropping $5,000 or $10,000 on a wedding, they want to know that they can trust you with that money, that you'll show up and that you'll deliver the photos, and that it's also an enjoyable experience for them. And that really carries over into the commercial photography industry as well. And I think that wedding photographers have so much amazing customer service experience that they'll do well in the commercial industry.
Oh, great. Okay. And so what can the audience look forward to hearing in your presentation? Like, would this be open and applicable to somebody who has never even considered commercial photography? Would it be of use to them to hear your presentation, and what can they expect?
I hope so. I hope that my passion for photography and lighting is passed on to others. I really think that strobes are scary for a lot of photographers, but once you know how to use them and once you practice with them, they're really easy and they're really fun to work with them. And that's something that I noticed that a lot of wedding photographers don't know how to use, is to work in a studio or to use strobes on location. And so that's what the workshop is. But I just talk about that as well a bit in the presentation also. And I really like lighting on everyone. So natural light, strobe light, artificial light. I'm just so passionate about it, and it really makes or breaks the photo in any industry that you're working in. And I also think that as wedding photographers, you do so much marketing to gain one client. And after the wedding, if you're not doing anything else with them, you've lost that client. And there's so much work that goes into gaining them marketing wise that you can keep them. So either keep going with the families if they're having children, or you can use them to like network and let them know about your other business, which would be a commercial photography business. Because a client who needs headshots might not recommend their wedding photographer. However, if they know their wedding photographer has a separate business just for commercial photography and business headshots, they're more likely to refer you, I think, instead of sending their workplace to your wedding photography website. So I think that things like separating those two areas into different websites and different brands is really important.
Awesome, Caroline. Thanks for sharing that. You have a workshop as well at ARC the day before the conference. In fact, we have all of our presenters sharing more in-depth and hands-on with each of our attendees. So I understand you still have a few seats left available for your workshop, which is the Commercial Portrait Starter Pack. Could you walk us a little bit through what students can expect at this workshop?
Yeah, so I think that strobes are really intimidating to non-studio photographers. However, light is light. And if you're really good at lighting your weddings, then I think you can use studio lights. So as long as you know what looks good lighting-wise, I think you can use strobes. So we're going to talk about different strobes, different price points, the differences between the different strobes that are commonly used in the industry, as well as studio on-location setups and posing as well. So it's really important to work fast when you're working with commercial headshots. What I do is I work often with clients who aren't professional models. So when you're doing business headshots, they don't have any experience modeling, which means that they're not good at modeling, but they also don't want to be there for a long time. So you have to work really quickly at giving direction and ensuring that they look good and they're happy with what they do. One of my favorite things when I'm shooting headshots is having someone be happy with their photo. Like, it's so satisfying when they look at the screen, they're like, oh my God, I love it. And this is often someone who doesn't want their photograph taken or who hates photographs of themselves. So it's just so nice to have that feeling when they're happy with the photograph. And I hope I can pass my passion on to others for commercial photography and headshots. I think that also
great.
wedding photographers takes headshots at like every single wedding. So I think that I'm not teaching newbies how to take photos. It's just more understanding strobes, different lighting situations and places that you'll be in.
Yeah, definitely. So I think for anyone who is not familiar with lighting or even using strobes, they're going to gain a lot just from having that hands-on experience. And that will help them at weddings. But not only that, if they ever get commercial inquiries, because they definitely will. I don't do a lot of commercial work, but over the years, I always get inquiries. And it's so interesting that they come across a wedding photography website and they want what I would deem as commercial work from a wedding photographer. And so knowing how to price that, how to shoot it is really important, all the different types of setup. And it sounds like it's going to be really thorough, which is excellent. And correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone who is attending will also get a portrait by you as well. So they'll be on the other side of the camera and actually experience what it's like to have a portrait by you. Can you share a little bit more around that?
Yeah, so if they want to, they're not forced to. There's about 10 attendees usually in the workshops, correct?
Yes.
They're limited? Yes. Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure before I promise this. Yeah, so it's great to use you as models because it's important to understand what you like about yourself. So if you can find lighting that you look good in and you love that photograph, then you can shoot other people. And just understanding what you don't like about a photograph as well. So I'll be asking for feedback for each attendee if they're open to sharing. Yeah, it's just interesting to talk about different areas because sometimes people think their face looks too round and then we can change that. Or someone thinks their face always looks too skinny in photographs or like their neck is too thin or something, that can be changed through different lenses that we use. So just understanding what common things are that people like or don't like about themselves and just highlighting or hiding some of that through lighting and lenses. Because lighting can really change your face. It just makes your face look so different and not like you sometimes. So it's important to keep it natural, but yeah.
That's really cool. And the difference with commercial versus weddings is usually on a wedding day, it's very unlikely that you're going to show the couple the photos as you're taking them. You're usually just it's a real live event and no one's coming to really look at the back of your screen and what you're taking. There are those few moments on a day where things are a bit slower, like the bride or the groom's getting ready and they may want to see how they look on the back of your camera, or maybe during a portrait, or maybe you get super excited as a wedding photographer and you just really want to show them what it looks like. But typically it's quite rare. So within commercial photography, with every single client you have, are you always showing them the back of the screen or you have a monitor and then are they picking live the portrait that they love there and there?
Yeah, so usually when there's humans involved, I always show them the photos. If I'm just shooting products and it's a client that I've had before, they don't usually see every photo. I do shoot e-commerce often. So if I'm doing an e-commerce photo shoot with like just shoes or purses, they don't have to see every single photo. Maybe I'll do a test shot, send it back to them, they approve it, and then I do the whole shoot alone. However, with clients, it's very common to shoot, it's called tethered. So your computer is connected to your camera and every time you press the button, it goes up on the screen and they can see the photos. I don't like to show them every photo because sometimes they're bad. But once there's like a series of good photos, I'll show it to them and then they can either flag the ones that they like in real time. But I do often share all the images with them so that they can choose their favorite one from a series of 10 or 15 if it's a business portrait. Yeah.
Great. And they get to keep the one typically, or is it delivering and editing a series? How does that work?
Yeah, so I just do a light edit, brightness, darkness. If it's not perfect in camera, send it back to the clients and then they pick their single image they want edited. And then I just add all the Photoshop to it, change the background if needed, make sure it's cropped right, and I send the single photo back to them. Often in different formats, like sometimes square, sometimes high res, sometimes low res, all in one package, but it's the same photo, which is really different from weddings because you can spend an hour shooting one photo and that's the only deliverable that you have versus weddings and hundreds of photos an hour to deliver and shoot.
Yeah, totally. When you first started as a photographer, who were some of the people that inspired you to get into photography? Who are the people that you were looking up to as a photographer?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first started shooting, I didn't have too many people that inspired me. But after a year or two, I started to get really interested in it. And I really looked up to Jose Villa and Elizabeth Messina. So I went to a few years at WPPI and saw them talk. And I really liked their style. And yeah, fantastic. I really looked up to them. Yeah, do you like them too?
Yeah, they're absolutely legends. I think we might have been at the same WPPI, which is a conference that happens in Las Vegas. Highly recommend to any photographer listening to this. I was there this year, previous year. I hope to be there next year. And it's always just cool to be around community. And again, we have the conference in Vancouver, so that's the local one for anyone in Canada. But I heard them both speak, and I think Jose just shared so much practical insights. Like, he went way over whatever his keynote was going to be. This was like 2011 or 12, I want to say, when I heard him speak.
Sounds about right.
And Elizabeth Messina, I think her handle was Kiss the Groom on Instagram.
Yes.
I'm not sure if she's still shooting, but she's incredible. Definitely a legend, both legends in the wedding photography world. Who are some of the commercial photographers that you look up to? Who are some people that kind of stand out in the commercial photography space that are really inspiring to you right now?
I only have one, and it's Annie Leibovitz. And I just absolutely love how she lights. And her lighting setups are minimal often when she's outside, or they appear to be minimal. She usually just has like a scrim, and then she has one or two lights. And I've always liked that because you see so many sets and they have like 20 lights here and they have like 100 people on set, and it just seems like so much unnecessary. Well, it's not unnecessary because they need it for the photo, but I just really enjoy working with a smaller set on location. So outside of a studio with a smaller set and just minimizing everything that I need to shoot, but still getting those professional level photos.
I haven't heard the word scrim in so long. When I first started shooting weddings, I was with photographers that always had a reflector, always used the golden side of it as well, with a silver side, and then they'll take it out if the light was so harsh, because it's so bright in Vancouver, they would take out the scrim and shoot with that. For anyone who doesn't know what a scrim is, can you explain what a scrim is?
A scrim is a piece of fabric, often silk, that is usually stretched out really, really tight, and it just goes between the light or the sun and the subject, and it just creates a really beautiful soft light when you're shooting on location or in the studio. It's often used in the studio as well. But yeah, you can get those pop-up ones, like there's 4 by 6 foot pop-up ones, which are awesome. And then you can actually get like a huge scrim, like an 8 by, or they're often referred to as like 8 by or a 6 by, which means 6 by 6 or 8 by 8. So you can get 8 bys or 6 bys or 4 bys and set them up on these huge stands. But the pop-up ones work really well.
That's great. I've always seen them outside. I haven't done a lot of studio work, but I didn't think that someone would use it inside. But it makes complete sense, because if you have a light and you just don't want to dim it, or if it's a flash, and it takes that little bit of the edge off and makes it ideal for shooting in, and it saves the Photoshop work for later. And it's just fascinating. I think anyone who hasn't explored commercial photography or hasn't tried it, I've tried it by, I guess, trial by fire, just sort of running and gutting it, giving it a go and learning through, sink or swim type scenarios, which I don't recommend to anyone, but I'm very familiar with off-camera flash and lighting, and that's actually how I started off. But if you're interested in commercial photography and you want to get hands-on experience, then definitely check out Caroline's workshop. Check out her work. She's extremely experienced in this and can't recommend it enough. So thanks for sharing that, Caroline. I really appreciate that. And what would you say is kind of keeping you on your toes? How are you maintaining that creative energy in your current season and then even in the off season? What keeps you inspired?
When I was shooting a lot of weddings a year, I didn't have any interest in photography as a hobby. My friends and family were like shocked to know that I would go on vacation and not bring my camera with me, because it wasn't something I enjoyed doing, because I did it for work. Yeah. You can relate probably. I'm sure a lot of photographers listening to this can relate. But since I took a step back from weddings, this is my first year that I've only shot 1 2-hour wedding, which was earlier this year. So it's been at least 8 months without shooting a wedding. And then last year, I just had a few to finish up. But yeah, last year I went on vacation with some girlfriends. I took my camera with me for the first time in at least 15 years. And I just had so much fun shooting mushrooms, which sounds weird, but they're so cute. Yeah, and I can share some photos with you if you want for the podcast. But yeah, I just had so much fun shooting mushrooms.
Amazing. Were you foraging out there, or you just stumbled upon these mushrooms? Or
just found them, and near our Airbnb there was like hundreds of mushrooms, and so I bought a book on mushrooms, and now I just like taking photographs. But I'm really scared to forage them. I was shooting a little bit too close to them one time. I think that I might have inhaled some, because I got really woozy in the next hour and just had like coughing for an hour straight. And so now I'm really scared of them. So now I just wear a mask when I shoot mushrooms.
Wow. Yeah, because I guess the I mean, I don't know so much about it, but it can rain one night and then the next day they grow so fast. So I imagine they can be in the air, and after it's rained, they could. Wow, that's really interesting. I would love to see those photos. Definitely, if you can share them with us, we can share that with our listeners as well. And that's really cool. So I know we spoke about some of the ones that inspired you at the beginning. Who would you say is inspiring you right now in the photography world?
I hate to say this, but I don't think I have anyone that inspires me right now. I've always just took a lot of inspiration from fashion magazines, even when I was shooting weddings. And I didn't always pay attention to who the photographers were. I just found an editorial that I liked and would try to recreate that. And so even now when I'm looking for inspiration for every single shoot I do, it's more of like a mood board without paying attention to the individual photographer. So not taking a style from one photographer, but having a bunch of them.
Cool. I remember buying magazines like Love Magazine and Harper's Bazaar and things like that, folding pages and just getting so much inspiration for weddings. And when I first started as well, and I can totally relate to, you may not necessarily know who the photographer is, but you're kind of channeling that vibe and that energy from those and making it your own for doing a shoot. If you were to meet your younger self when you first started in the commercial world, what's like one piece of advice that you'd give to your younger self when you were starting out?
When I was younger, I thought that clients would just flock to me, and as well as like publications and magazines. And I thought it was really easy to move up. And I used to think the goal was having high profile clients when I was younger. But now as I grow older, I realize that those high profile clients are very stressful, and the shoots that are involved in working with them in the commercial industry is also really stressful. There's a lot of people on set, and it's just really quick and stressful environment that I don't think I want that anymore. I thought that was the only path to success when I was younger, but now I realize that you can have a very, very successful business without having any well-known clients. And I also didn't understand exactly how societal classes and having connections worked. So I didn't realize that if I started out without any connections, like say I moved to a new city and had no connections, it would take me so much longer to reach that high profile client than someone who started out with a similar portfolio, but maybe their dad is like David Beckham. So his son, Brooklyn Beckham, is now a photographer, and he's talented. He's great. It's not that he's not talented. It's just that when you start out with your dad as David Beckham, then you have those high profile clients in your connections immediately. Yeah. So it just takes a lot longer for with no clients to get to that high profile spot.
I didn't know Brooklyn Beckham was a photographer. Is that a newer thing? Last I saw, he was training with Arsenal, which is a team that I support. But that's so fascinating that he's a photographer. There's so many people who in sports become photographers, and then Jeff Bridges, an actor, is an amazing photographer as well. Bryan Adams, Canadian.
Oh, I did know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dylan Sprouse is another one. Dylan Sprouse played on Riverdale, so he does like photography for some pretty big brands, which I don't think he would have gotten those if he wasn't a well-known actor already. Not to say he's not talented, but you can have very talented people who just don't get that work immediately.
Yeah. It's so much about the people that you know, which is why when we started off, you said, joining a community or being in BNI and things like that. You have to be very upfront and find those connections and make them happen. When you're a wedding photographer, it's easier because you maybe have a cousin or, like you mentioned as well, and friends who are getting married. But when you move to a new location, you have to find those connections and really go for it. I'm from London, England, moved to Vancouver, and literally just told everyone from baristas to whoever that, hey, I'm a wedding photographer. There's an opportunity to share it. I would. And you never know where the next booking may come from. So it's really key to get out there and join those networks. And another reason to come to ARC and the conferences, because you'll meet other photographers there who shoot in a similar way, and you create friendships which are amazing, but also you end up referring each other weddings because you shoot in a similar way, and it just makes sense to make those referrals, right? So awesome. Well, we're a few months away from the conference. What does the next few months and weeks look like for you in the run-up to ARC, the conference?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I teach. So I'm teaching every day at Linga, and also every single week I shoot for one of my clients. I shoot their e-commerce for their website, and then so that happens once a week for maybe about 4 or 5 hours, and I shoot around 100 items. And then I also have other clients whose headshots I shoot perhaps about once or twice a month. I have other clients as well where I go into their office and shoot their new hires and just do their headshots and business branding shoots.
Oh, great. Outside of work, anything exciting happening over the next few months?
Just a little bit of travel. So I'm flying home to my brother's surprise 40th birthday, which I'm really excited about. and that happens on October 11th for Thanksgiving. And so, yeah, that's what all I have now personally, and obviously just friends and hangouts on the weekend. It's been really nice having my weekends back once I stopped shooting weddings, so I can hang out with all my Monday to Friday friends who have Monday to Friday jobs.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're off on weekends, yeah. Because as a photographer, you probably mostly hang out with friends during the week because you're working weekends, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's definitely true. And it's nice to have those random weekends off in the summer where you can catch up with other friends and stuff like that. But I prefer going out generally during the week versus weekends. Things are quieter. There's more inspiring things happening Sunday night to Thursday night, I would say.
Yeah, I really miss that because now just going to restaurants and movies and tourist attractions on like a Monday at 1 p.m. is so much more enjoyable than Saturday at 1 p.m. at Costco or something.
Yeah, totally. Oh man, Saturday Costco is not great. But awesome, Caroline. Thanks so much, for being on this podcast, for being a guest. I'm excited to see you at ARC and in November with everyone else, and look forward to catching up with you very soon. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much. And I'm so looking forward to ARC. And I think it's wonderful what you do with the community in Vancouver and international as well. And yeah, I can't wait to be there.
Thank you, Caroline. Once again, thank you, Caroline, for joining. Her artistry and unique approach are perfect reminders of the importance of individuality in photography. You can connect with her online. All the details are on the link in the description below. But join us at ARC. If you can't make it this year, we'll see you at the next one. Imagine the impact that these concepts that Caroline's sharing can have on your next season. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next episode. My name is Sachin Kona. Take care. Peace.